Ugh, you said you were over him, but his hoodie is still in your rotation. It's time. Grab your phone, snap a few pics, and sell it on Depop. Listed in minutes, with no selling fees. And just like that, a guy 500 miles away just paid full price for your closure. And right on cue.
Hey, still got my hoodie?
Nope. But I've got tonight's dinner paid for. Start selling on Depop, where taste recognizes taste. List now with no selling fees. Payment processing fees and boosting fees still apply. See website for details.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Kelly Green Hour. It's been a minute. The Super Bowl was 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, and the Seattle Seahawks defeated the New England Patriots. Shocker. 29-13. It's almost like the Patriots didn't play anybody all season. And the Eagles are no longer the defending champions, and we are 200 some odd days until the first game of the 2026 NFL season. I'm your host, LG Rail, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Connor Donald. Connor, what's going on, man?
Yeah, I think it's 203, but who's counting?
I was close.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Like, the Super Bowl just ended, and here we are going right into, like, the combines starting this weekend and stuff. I think things go too fast. The NFL never stops, doesn't slow down, let's just face it. But it's good to be back, and it's good to be starting to talk about the off season.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't. Let's be honest, the NFL has turned into a 365-day, 24/7 news cycle, pretty much. And I always say when there's no news, there's good news, or no news is good news in terms of the Eagles. But there's a lot of stuff out there. So before we jump into that, as always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LGRL54. And follow Eagles Pinpool Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcasts at Eagles Pinpool Network. And if you're joining us live, like Adam's exploits is, just know your thoughts in the chat on everything that has happened thus far in the Eagles offseason, the new offensive coordinator. We'll touch on Jeff Stoutland and some of the free agents that are that will, most will not be back next season. Some could be back next season. Yes, I do have the ceiling fan going. I don't think I'd turn it off even when it was like negative 10 degrees outside. Just why would I? You need some ventilation.
And leave it to Adam to correct. The combine starts next week, so a week away. I was incorrect in this weekend, but we're coming up. It's coming fast.
Yeah, and there could be news on one A.J. Brown, and I will say it right off the bat, I do not want A.J. Brown traded. I want A.J. Brown here. A.J. Brown makes the Eagles a better team, and this has nothing to do with any of the money, the cap implications, or anything like that. I like A.J. Brown as a player. Everything he said last year, he was right about, and so I don't care about all that stuff. I want A.J. Brown here. And I'm hoping that Sean Mannion, the new offensive coordinator, he's not going to make him run 75 pitches in a game. He'll run a more complex and more varied route tree during a game, and hopefully that helps make AJ Brown happy. And hopefully Jalen Hurts is able to learn the system quickly, acclimate himself with the system quickly, get the ball out quickly. They're going to try to pass the ball. I know they got the running. They got Saquon, obviously, but, this is a passing league, and that's what the Eagles are going to try to do. They're going far and away. They're going away from what the Eagles have done the last 5 years under Nick Sirianni. It's not the same. It's not going to be the same. And there are idiots out there like ESP who says that, the moves that were made show that Sirianni has more power. No. Because they've gone away from what Sirianni has wanted to do. And if Sirianni could call plays and whatnot, we wouldn't be going through this every year. Sirianni's on the hot seat this year because if this offense works and a team comes calling for Sean Mannion to be their head coach, there will be a decision made. If Jalen Hurts looks like the $250 million quarterback that they signed him to, and this offense, is putting up 28 to 30 points a game, it would not shock me if Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman chose Sean Mannion over Nick Sirianni.
We had AJ Brown on the docket, so I'll clear my thoughts. You cleared your thoughts on him. I'll clear my thoughts on him, and we can wipe that off our list of to-dos to talk about today. I agree with you. AJ Brown makes the team better. There's a lot of people who have the commentary out there that I completely agree with, that if you move AJ Brown, what you're getting back in return is not going to match what you get from a productive AJ Brown. And we know what it's like to have a productive AJ Brown. And we know that he can become a productive AJ Brown again. And there's a lot of people kind of talked about, he's doing his media tour now, kind of getting things geared up to be traded. And I don't think that it's that. I think he's going on a media tour because, at the start of the season, everything that went down, all the comments he made, like you said, they weren't wrong. And what he's saying now, I don't think what he's saying to the media or what he's saying to podcast hosts or whatever, I don't think is lies. I genuinely think he wants to give this offense a chance. He's open to giving the Eagles another chance. He doesn't want to be traded either. He's got lots of money. It's not like he gets moved and he gets more money. There's quite a bit of money already locked up in him. And I feel like it's worth it for him. We've seen him be very productive with Jalen Hurts, and I think he can definitely be continue to be very productive with Jalen Hurts. And this offense is going to be interesting to see what happens and what it looks like. But they are moving away from the Sirianni offense into an offense that is finding a lot more productivity in the NFL and all across the NFL. So I think that was one of the biggest reasons to roll with Sean Mannion as well.
Yeah, and look, we get it. He's only been a coach in the NFL for 2 years, was playing 3 years ago, or at least was on an NFL roster 3 years ago. So it is a meteoric rise for him, and we don't know how he's going to be. I think the fortunate thing is he's a quarterback, and he knows, like, as a quarterback, you want to play in as quickly as possible, and you want it to be a concise play. His mind will work like, obviously, hopefully him and Jalen's minds will work alike. And what I mean by that is, Kevin Patullo, it took him forever to he wasn't thinking 2, 3, 4 plays ahead. And you could tell because they were getting plays in late. And I think that Mannion's going to understand that you need to think ahead and working with the likes of Sean McVay and, Matt LaFleur and O'Connell. Right, that O'Connell's from Minnesota. That's him. Like working with them, he while he didn't call plays, he kind of has an idea, what it takes to run an offense. So I do think that this is going to be good for the Eagles. And I'll be honest, like, it's not going to look pretty right away. It's completely different from what they've done. And it wouldn't shock me if in the preseason we see the starting offense play in a preseason game for a couple of series. They haven't played, in the preseason the last 3-4 years, which obviously has helped the Eagles. They've been one of the healthiest teams going into the playoffs, but it's been the same system. Now they're going to have to go out there and, kind of show it on the field. Now, it won't, they won't show everything, obviously, but you kind of want to just get the rhythm of Sean Mannion calling the plays into Jalen Hurts, calling the plays in the huddle. Like, you want to get that down, and you can only do so much in practice, even joint practices. But being able to do that in a game environment, I think, will be key for this Eagles offense to try to get off to a fast start in a new offense.
We got Adam's Exploit says, I don't like him, AJ Brown, as a teammate, but I don't think they can get enough back in a trade. I completely agree. I think that there's just,
you might not
in my
like him as a
personal
teammate,
opinion, there's a lot of people who
they voted him a captain.
Believe that there's going to be a good return. Who would believe there's going to be a good return for AJ Brown? But to be honest, I don't know. It's not going to match the type of player you get in AJ Brown when he's productive, when he's on top of his game, and we know that he can get there.
You froze up a little bit, Connor, but I was in the middle of saying that we, Adam, you might not like him as a teammate. There might be fans that might not. The team loves him as a teammate. He's one of the better guys on the team. They all gravitate towards him. So, like, I have no issue with him. He's a captain, and there's people out there that are saying he shouldn't be a captain. Well, there's a reason why he was voted a captain. He's going to be one to speak their mind. I bet you Devontae Smith felt some type of way. He's just not the type, and I'm not taking this away from Devontae. He's not the type to come out and, speak. He's also used to it. He went to Alabama, and there were 5 stars at every position, and you had to, go out there and battle with these 5 stars, and if you weren't good enough, you've been taken off the field. And you might not have, Derrick Henry and Trent Richardson and Mark Ingram, like, if they were going to, and Nick Saban was going to have the quarterback hand the ball off, 50 times and you only got 3 passes, you have to live with it. And then you can also have those seasons where you win a Heisman Trophy like Devontae did. So that's why Devontae doesn't come out and say the stuff that A.J. Brown has said, but maybe Devontae feels that same way. You have to believe that Devontae and A.J. have had conversations about it, and A.J. Brown is just more outspoken. And everybody wants an athlete to speak their mind, but when they go and speak their mind, they get pissed off about it. You can't have it both ways. So I have zero issue with what A.J. Brown did, and I know that, his 95% of his teammates aren't mad at him, and 95% of his teammates are all really cool with him. Of course, you're not going to like everybody. Everybody in the locker room is not going to like you. It happens. And if AJ and Jalen can be copacetic on the field, they don't have to be best buds like they used to be. But if they can be productive on the field and whatnot, I don't care how it happens. But I want and I expect AJ to be an Eagle in 2026.
Yeah, I think that every athlete and how they approach the media and how they present themselves is unique. It's going to be different and it's not all going to be the same. And it goes back to, I think he was on a podcast or something where he was saying, I think that I'm just misunderstood or people are just misunderstanding me. Not verbatim, but obviously more or less that's what he said within like the 1.5 minute clip that I saw. And you know what? It's probably true. Because he did speak to the exact point you just made, LJ, about how there were basically that he was just speaking his mind. He was speaking the truth. He was frustrated. He wanted to get things off of his back. And it is that's who A.J. Brown is. And like you said, Devontae Smith is not like that. Not every wide receiver is like that. We've seen guys like Terrell Owens. There's A.J. Brown. There's a Tyreek Hill situation. There's situations you can see them all over the league. And they're so unique and they're never going to be the same. And at this point, I don't necessarily, like some people call him a diva and stuff. I don't even believe he's a diva. He just spoke the truth in way earlier than anybody even thought to speak the truth. And obviously the Eagles are a team that usually likes to keep stuff in-house, try to deal with their business in-house. And A.J. Brown was just beyond frustrated and made it clear. And he said it before everyone else even went out there and realized how bad it was really going to be with Kevin Patullo.
Also, and I see Adam says he should address the issues in private and not act like a jerk. Maybe he did at first. Remember, he put out a post listening to me but not listening to me. How do we know he didn't talk? He didn't have conversations with the coaching staff and it kind of just to be like, hey, I think we need to do stuff different. And they just poo-pooed him and said, look, we know what we're doing. We got this. How do we know that didn't happen? And it got to a point where he just needed to get it off his chest. Again, no issues with it. I don't think he's a bad teammate for that.
No, I agree. And I think that that's a perfect segue into the departure of Jeff Stoutland. We have not been on the air since the departure of Jeff Stoutland happened. And you make the comment about A.J. Brown and how he didn't think he was being heard. And Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni were just kind of running away with kind of I don't know if it was an over-controlling managing of the offense and managing between each other. But then that report came out about Jeff Stoutland and how they handled taking away his run game coordinator role and how that may have been part of the issue into why he left the team. And then, of course, there's the other side of the coin, which is also, I believe both have some truth to it, is that schematically, he just didn't want to learn a new scheme. He preferred, he preferred the scheme that he knew. He's at an age where why should I have to, I'm not one that has to evolve with the game necessarily to the degree that others have to. He knows that he has a way that works and things that work. And I believe that both may be true, but that report that came out about how Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni more or less kind of ran Jeff Stoutland out of town with the way they treated him. That man's a legend in Philadelphia. He deserved so much better than how they managed him mid-season and how things reportedly went down.
Yeah, I mean, he did deserve to be treated better last year. And it's a shame that things happen the way they happen. And you can't blame Stoutland for, Lane Johnson missing half the season. Jurgens coming in injured. Dickerson also the entire line played well, and Tyler Steen not being as good as Becton. But I'm they wanted him to come back, obviously, but he didn't want it to be in a reduced role, like not having the run game coordinator. But if you're going to have Sean Mannion run this offense, I'm glad that if they're really giving him full autonomy, I'm glad they're giving him full autonomy. And is it unfortunate that that Stoutland won't be back? Yeah, I mean, it's very unfortunate. But sometimes changes are needed to be made. I mean, Andy Reid ended up getting fired. John Harbaugh with the Ravens, Mike Tomlin with the Steelers. It happens, and it's very unfortunate that it happens. But as Adams actually says, it's a very different blocking scheme. Like if Stoutland was set in his ways and set in just doing it his way, decisions had to be made, and they're not always easy decisions. Do we love Stout? He's a legend. Yeah, we love Stout, and he's a legend. But if you're not going to acquiesce, if you're not going to try to change things up, it's unfortunate. Just things have to change. So while I was disappointed at first and him getting stuff taken away from him last year, I mean, remember Sirianni made the comment that he was taking more stake into the offense, taking more responsibility. That was it. I don't know if it really helped that much. Like, if you think about it, the yards per game did go up towards the end of the year, but they also were playing the Giants, or not the Giants. They were also playing the Raiders, Washington. Like, they were playing bad defenses the last handful of games. Bad rush defenses last handful of games. They also couldn't run the ball against a bad Buffalo defense either. Go figure. And they couldn't really run the ball that well against the banged up Niners team in the playoffs. So it's a little give or take. Again, if Sean Mannion is really going to run this offense, and it's going to be his offense, let him bring his coaches in. Like, I'm really mad that Aaron Moorhead is back. Why? Aaron Moorhead stinks. And I don't know if maybe A.J. Brown likes Aaron Moorhead and this is a way to acquiesce to A.J. Brown. Who knows? But, I feel like the receivers haven't really gotten much better with Aaron Moorhead, who's been here. I think Aaron Moorhead was here under Doug Peterson. Like, that's how long he's been here. So, again, they're like Jamal Singleton being back, I'm fine with that. He's good with the running backs.
Sure.
Parks Frazier being the QB coach, whatever. I mean, Sean Mannion's really going to be the one with the QBs anyway. So being interested, and I guess this is a way for Sirianni to say, look, I still have, power here. I'm keeping some of my guys. Well, it's really Sean Mannion's offense. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, the key figures of this new coaching staff are new hires to the team. Let's just face it. It's not Josh Grizzard is not a Nick Sirianni guy. Like there's got, and he brought in the tight ends coach there from Green Bay. His name's slipping my mind right now.
Ryan
who's going to be the run? Ryan Mahaffey is going to be the run game coordinator and offensive line coach, essentially. So the biggest,
Chris Cooper,
and then of course Sean Mannion.
Chris Cooper's the offensive line coach.
Chris Cooper's the offense. Okay, yeah. So like at least those three figures, Mannion, Mahaffey, and Grizzard, are all not from within the organization. Everything else is just kind of like a you answer to me. You help me make this offense hum type of thing. Well, those three guys are going to be the core at the top of the offensive coaching scheme. My thought on Stoutland there before I move off of that is I'm not leaning into the report that the way that Nick Sirianni treated him is the main reason he left. I don't think that that's the main reason he left. I actually tend to kind of agree with you, LJ. I think it stems more from the scheme change, the idea of a new scheme, starting fresh. A man's like, the guy's like 60s, mid to late 60s. He's a guy like, if someone told Vic Fangio, we need you to start running a new scheme, he'd say, all right, I'm done. Some of these guys don't need to be in the NFL. They don't need to coach. They're more than happy. Like, I think Jeff Stoutland is more than happy for this to be his final stop. But if the right opportunity presents itself, similar to Fangio, who prior to Philadelphia was probably on his way into retirement, if Philadelphia didn't become available and an opportunity presented itself. So I feel like for Jeff Stoutland, it's probably more to do with scheme and more that he didn't want to change. And I don't think that that's disrespect to Jeff Stoutland. That's just, when big change, like you said, when big change has to happen. And if you're not willing to come along for the ride, then that's Jeff Stoutland's decision. And you could kind of tell there was a pretty significant youth movement going on within the coaching staff. There's very few coaches over the age of 40 on this coaching staff.
Especially on the especially on the offensive side. Like, Stoutland is still under contract with the Eagles, technically. Like, if he wants to, after this kind of blows over, he gets some time away. If he still wants to be around the building, he can, and help out Chris Cooper and whatnot, and maybe kind of just learn more and learn about the scheme just to kind of get an idea of it. But, like, the Eagles aren't just going to let him go to the Giants. They're not going to let him go to a rival team to be offensive line coach. It's just not going to happen. Like, Fangio went from the Dolphins to the Eagles. That's an AFC to NFC team. So we'll see what happens in that. But I do think that once kind of the dust settles, I do think Stout is going to be around the building a little bit. I mean, I don't think that him leaving is going to affect Lane Johnson. I think Lane Johnson is going to be back. Landon Dickerson, I know there were reports. I think he's going to be back. They just need to get them healthy. And hopefully Juergens, I know somebody brought up he's in Colombia trying to get like a stem cell thing. Whatever it is, hopefully it works, because he definitely wasn't healthy last year. And I'm also of the belief, put him at right guard. He played right guard when Kelsey was here. Find another center. Now, I would say, get Lindenbaum from the Tyler Lindenbaum from the Ravens, but he's going to get paid by the Giants are going to boatload money for him to get him to probably be their center. But, like, that's what I think they should do. Move, Juergens to right guard and get another center. We have a couple that it could be high on. Like, we talk about Willie Lampkin, Drew Kendall. Like, maybe somebody else would fit better there. And if you're not a center, maybe that helps the back of Cam Juergens, because you're not going to be, the tush push isn't going to be right over you. You're not going to, like, I'm just saying, like, that could alleviate some of the back pain and could put him, like, again, he was a good right guard when Kelsey was here.
Yeah, and I think that it's important to also note, like, Willie Lampkin and Cam Juergens both strike me as a Jason Kelsey prototype, and Jeff Stoutland is no longer there. The scheme could also change how they look at right guard, center. Obviously, left guard, left tackle, right tackle probably going to stay the same, but right guard and center are where we could see some significant change, because Willie Lampkin was picked up with Stoutland still there, with the same rushing concept and offensive concept that they had kind of been running with for so long, and now we're about to see such a uniquely different, well, not really unique for Philadelphia, but not unique to the league concept. And I think that could change things. Obviously, there's some contracts that we're kind of stuck with, so Sean Mannion's going to have to deal with some of these guys and try and get the most out of some of these guys to the best of his ability along the offensive line. But I think that could change how they view the center position and Cam Juergens as well. Definitely agree with you on that point.
I do think that this scheme could help Juergens, though, because it'll get him out in space more. So
it's true.
Maybe the change of scheme will help Juergens.
But the final thing I wanted to, before we move off of coach, Brett Eclipses, it felt like they were genuinely going in a new direction with the first few coaching hires. But seeing Parks Frazier at QB coach and Moorhead sticking around is starting to ruin it for me. To me, it was just kind of like I said a couple minutes ago. It's these guys answer to Mannion, Grizzard, and Mahaffey, and they just need to help make this offense, incorporate this offense and make this offense hum and make this offense a lot better than it was last season. You could even say a lot better than even like Kellen Moore threw his own kinks into it, but it was a Sirianni offense and it was really difficult to watch at times, especially those first 4 weeks of the season. And then the brief Brian Johnson era that we had. So it's about moving the offense far away from that and from what we once were looking at as an offense for countless years almost. Even when Sirianni wasn't around, the Doug Peterson offense and that concept felt very similar, obviously based on how they used some of the players. So it'll be interesting to see. But to me, like Parks Frazier, they just gave him a role. This felt like a Nick Sirianni guy that Sirianni wanted to keep, has some familiarity. You had to keep some familiarity with Jalen Hurts, I feel like.
Scott Loeffler
and it's just
the QB coach, because Jalen liked Scott.
I agree. You saw the exchanges that they had in Hard Knocks, and like you could see them in the room and watch him film and how they connected. They connected so much better than like Hertz and Patullo or even Hertz and Sirianni at times. So I was kind of surprised that Loeffler was out too, but I feel like Loeffler being out was more of he saw the writing on the wall with, Sean Mannion's going to be the guy that's got most of Jalen Hurts' ear. Sean Mannion, you can take the QB out of the QB coach role, but you're never going to take him away from the QB and trying to maximize that QB in the offense. And I feel like Parks Frazier was kept strictly, they just had to give him a role. They found him a role. They gave him a role that wasn't a major demotion from what he was doing as a passing game coordinator last year. So I feel like that was more the direction. Aaron Moorhead, that made no sense to me. I'll agree on that point. Aaron Moorhead being back made absolutely zero sense to me. There was like, you can find better options. Like we've kind of talked about it over the past, like thinking back years, like Devontae Smith came in and he was supposed to be what he was. AJ Brown, we acquired him for what he was. Who has he developed? What have the countless wide receiver threes that come in for a year and leave because they do nothing in the offense? Not that the offense gave them a whole lot of a chance beyond, once you have Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert, and Brown and Smith. Once you feed all them, there's not much left. But who has he developed beyond that? What has he even done as a wide receivers coach? It was infuriating. That one just made no sense. But I guess, being in the league long enough gets you that respect in some regard.
Before we jump into the free agents or into a couple other comments a couple other things before free agency, Hertz says, how much will Jordan Davis want? I like Davis, but he doesn't play every snap. Let's be real. Besides Aaron Donald and Jalen Carter, there's not many defensive tackles that play every snap. Jordan Davis was better, and Adam says, I'm not a stat guy, but it seemed to the eye that Davis had a better year than Carter. Granted, Carter was hurt. Davis had a better year than Carter last year. Carter is, supposed to be the better player, but last year, Jordan Davis was the guy. Jordan Davis is going to be back, and I want to keep the Davis, Carter, Ojomo kind of trio together. But the interesting part is going to become, this is probably going to be Fangio's last year. Like they had to convince him to come back, and you can kind of see the writing on the wall in terms of Schwartz is going to be the next defensive coordinator of the Eagles, most likely, with Christian Parker in Dallas. And Schwartz's defense is way different than Vic Fangio's defense. So that's going to be the interesting part in free agency, in the draft, when it comes to defensive players. Fangio can be like, I like this guy, he fits my scheme. Okay, but are you going to be here after next year? Like, we want to bring these guys in and he fits your system, but if you're going to retire after this year, is he going to fit our next defensive coordinator system? And again, the next defensive coordinator should have been Christian Parker. Well, he's not here anymore. So, and apparently they reached out to Jonathan Gannon. Thank God it's not going to be him. And Jim Schwartz, who is now taking a year off, coincidentally. So that's where things are going to get interesting in terms of like on the defensive side of the ball. We know the defense is the strength of the team. And now the money is going to switch. It's going to go from all 90% of the money being on the offense. It's going to go to the defense. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, maybe Nolan Smith, maybe Jalen Phillips, maybe Nakobe Dean, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. Like, they're going to have to pay these guys. So how do you go about building a defense if you don't know who your defensive coordinator is going to be for the next 5 years?
No, I agree with you. That makes it so challenging for Howie because he has to start making the decision. Does Nakobe Dean fit a defensive scheme with Jim Schwartz? Does Jordan Davis fit that? Does, like when you go from a 3-4 to a 4-3, or like his is a very modified 3-4 scheme. When you go from a 3-4 to like a 4-3, which Jim Schwartz runs, it's what you need, especially for the fact that we've been able to let edge be a bit thinner and be a little bit weaker because of how effective and how important the interior of the defensive line is. But what happens when you don't need the interior of the defensive line to be the key or the core for you, and you need a Myles Garrett on the outside or a Max Crosby on the outside and produce some pressure, not to the same degree that we've been seeing our edge rushers like Jalen Phillips. everybody's crying, like, you got to, I guess this is a good segue into talking about some of this. Jalen Phillips, it's like you have to bring Jalen Phillips back. You really don't have to bring Jalen Phillips back. He came in on a bender because new team, fresh environment. He was hyped the first 2 or 3 games. He was doing really good. And then he just kind of became average. He kind of tapered off. He had his moments, of course, in games, but he's no game wrecker. You have to pay him whatever he wants, or you can't let this guy walk out the door. No, that's not how I see Jalen Phillips. And obviously the injuries, we didn't see the injuries with Jalen Phillips this year, but they're still there. They should be in the back of your mind. They're a risk. There's still a risk associated with it. So, but I agree with you. Like, if Jim Schwartz is the next defensive coordinator, it's going to be a completely different defensive coordinator. If the Vic Fangio scheme was going to continue, it was likely going to continue under Christian Parker. I would be interested to know how that discussion went between Fangio and the Philadelphia Eagles that, Christian Parker was on the way out. If Fangio wanted to go, why weren't you comfortable with letting Christian Parker step into the role? Like, it feels really weird that through all those discussions that were had, this was the end result when you could have had your future defensive coordinator for who knows how many years, depending on if he got head coaching opportunities down the road. He could have been your future defensive coordinator for at least 2, 3, 4 years. Like, it took Jonathan Gannon a while to get that first opportunity too. So we could have seen Christian Parker be our defensive coordinator for a handful of seasons. So it's kind of weird now hearing kind of what came out about Vic Fangio, and they had to convince him to stay, even though they had the opportunity to keep Christian Parker in-house too. It is weird. It's been such a weird offseason, a lot of different reports coming out, but you have to believe that, yes, Vic Fangio definitely considered retirement, and there's a high likelihood, yes, the Eagles convinced him to stay, but why? If it meant losing Christian Parker.
Well, I do think that they were going totally different on the offensive side, and Christian Parker has been here, and he kind of would have been continuity on the defensive side. They just know that the strength of this team right now is the defense, and if he would have retired, if Vic would have retired with Christian Parker going out, oh man, this season would have just been a lost season probably coming up if all that happened. But you would, and I don't know if how it went down. Obviously, there was talk that last year they convinced him to come back too. But what was the timeline? Did after Christian Parker agreed to become the Dallas defensive coordinator, is that when Vic was like, I'm thinking about retiring? But if they had to convince him to come back, is his heart going to be in this season? You know what I mean? He's already going to have his one toe out the door. His eyes looking the other way. That's my only worry. But fortunately, this is still a young defense, and I think that kind of helps Fangio. So we'll see. And Joe Casper taking over for Christian Parker, Pellegrini, who's coming over from the Bills, who worked with, Christian Gonzalez, Stephon Gilmore, Tre'Davious White. He's worked with some good corners. So, he's got experience, and he could continue to help groom Q and Coop. So I am definitely I think the defense is going to still be good. Yes, they have to bring in some pieces still. I want Nakobe to come back. It's going to suck if we see Nakobe Dean in a Dallas jersey next year. I'm just saying that now. It will freaking suck. So I hope he's back. He's talked about how he loves Philly and wants to be back in Philly with his Georgia dudes. So I'm hoping that he comes back, and I get it. We drafted Jahad Campbell in the first round last year, but Nakobe is the heart and soul of this defense. And we saw how much better they got when he came back off of injury. I don't know how they have to figure it out, but I would love Nakobe to come back. Jalen Phillips, we'll actually get into the free agents thing, stay to go in a couple of minutes. But there were a couple other things that you wanted to talk about, Connor, if you want to bring them up.
Yeah. I'll just hit on one because this was the one that bothered me. So the NFL owners won a lawsuit to basically have the team report cards continue. Well, they basically, I feel like they can still do them, but they're not allowed to publish them. So all that reporting that we got about, what teams were like and how they were in the building and what they were like to travel with and blah, blah, blah. We no longer get to see that as fans. And I just think that it's such a soft and sad world that we have reached, especially with owners where they've gotten to the point where they don't want this stuff to become public knowledge. I get why you're a multi-billionaire, and some of the stuff that these multi-billionaires did to their players or their families and stuff, so sad. So I just wanted to bring it up because I mean it's like when if we with our company did, we were responsible for, answering some questions about how our company is, what we like about our company, what needs improved upon, and they never addressed any of it. It feels like that's exactly what they're doing now without the team report cards and stuff. So I just wanted to bring that one up. The other part was about Acho with Jalen Hurts, and we're going to get into more Jalen Hurts stuff this offseason. We got a bigger business to deal with, but the team report card thing, that was just a joke. I mean, you got lots of money. Why hide from some of the shameful stuff that you force your multi-millionaire players to do? It's crazy. This is rich people being petty.
I wish I was rich. I can be petty. No, kidding. Before we jump into the free agency, there go. Adams F. Voice, are you guys going to touch on the Eagles draft tonight? Not tonight, but that's definitely on the docket for this before the draft. Obviously, we'll do our mock drafts and whatnot. And I did you guys see that Jalen Hurts was the most hated NFL player chosen by the fans?
Close your eyes, exhale, feel your body relax, and let go of whatever you're carrying today.
Well, I'm letting go of the worry that I wouldn't get my new contacts in time for this class. I got them delivered free from 1-800-CONTACTS. Oh my gosh, they're so fast.
And breathe.
Oh, sorry. I almost couldn't breathe when I saw the discount they gave me on my first order. Oh, sorry. Namaste.
Visit 1-800-CONTACTS.com today to save on your first order.
1-800-CONTACTS.
You saw the game-winning play once, but have to replay it 3 times on the way back to the hotel. Because some moments don't end at the buzzer. Life's a trip. Make the most of it at Best Western. Book direct and save at bestwestern.com.
It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
My day kicks off with a refreshing Celsius energy drink, then straight to the gym. Pre-K pickup, back home to meal prep. Time for my fire station shift. One more Celsius, gotta keep the lights on. When the 3-alarm hits, I'm ready. Celsius. Live, fit, go. Grab a cold, refreshing Celsius at your local retailer or locate now at Celsius.com.
This episode is brought to you by Peloton. Break through the busiest time of year with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus. Powered by Peloton IQ. With real-time guidance and endless ways to move, you can personalize your workouts and train with confidence, helping you reach your goals in less time. Let yourself run, lift, sculpt, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
I don't get it. I think they just hate that he wins. He's he's humble. He doesn't brag about it. He just goes out there. He doesn't care how it gets done. He goes out there and wins and kind of just does his own thing. Like, they're just haters is what they are.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, I was going to go into the Acho thing because of what he said, and then the VIP pictures emerged that he clearly hangs out with other people. But I mean,
he was with Devontae and Kayvon Thibodeau, I think. Like, he wasn't by himself.
Yeah, yep. Exactly. And at the end of the day, he's a competitor. And some competitors don't want to go out and be buddy-buddy and make friends with all the players that they play against and stuff. He doesn't have to be. There's no reason that he needs to be. I understand that maybe Acho feels and views players in a certain way and in a certain respect. But that's definitely not Jalen Hurts. And I mean, people hate him maybe just because of the way he carries himself. He wins, he carries himself, and people think also that he's being carried by players. But at the end of the day, that it's a joke that that's even something that people would vote on. It's just trying to create things because they know that it's going to end up a Philly player. And it's the same as ESP. Everything ESP said during the season, he turned around and is saying the exact opposite this offseason because he knows it's what's going to get him clicks and get him riled up. It's just media BS.
It is. It really is. All right. Free agency, stay or go. The Eagles have a lot of a bunch of free agents. What I'm going to do, some are self-explanatory. We'll do quick. Others might take a minute or two to discuss. We'll do a quick, I'm going to go in alphabetical order on our unrestricted free agents. So first we're going to start with Reed Blankenship. I'm going to go first. He can kick rocks and go for all I care. I've never been a Reed Blankenship guy, and I know that others are going to feel differently, but I don't think he's that good. Andrew Makuba is going to be a starter. Maybe they can find a safety to bring in. The one guy, my dream guy, is Caleb Downs, but he's going to be picked in the top 10, maybe top 5. So that's a 0% chance of him coming here. But if Reed Blankenship got a contract to go elsewhere, I would not cry. I'd be fine with it. So I'm a go on Reed Blankenship.
Yeah, this one I agree. I'm a go. We've never been big Reed Blankenship guys, so I guess we may be not the most unbiased on our opinion. But I feel like you can get better. You can be better at the safety position. He's more there because he's a fan favorite. People love him. I get it. Not great in coverage. Tackling technique is brutal at times. Sometimes he's cost us games or major plays in games. It's difficult, and I understand that every player is going to do that, but I've seen it a lot more with a guy like Reed Blankenship. So I would agree with you. Now, the way the market's shaping up, I mean, if he's really genuinely only going to get $4 or $5 million, I'd be more than willing to go at it just for the continuity and just because you're pretty thin at safety as is. But if the market heats up for him and it starts to get higher up, I'd let him walk. But for now, I agree with you. I'm on the go list.
All right. The next is Grant Calcaterra. I'll let you go first on that.
Gone.
I agree.
We don't even have to elaborate. Just go back and watch some of our past episodes from this year.
He's a terrible blocker. We need the entire tight end room is going to end up being revamped. Maybe they bring Goddard back, we'll get to, but they need a whole new room. Next, Nakobe Dean. Yes, I've already stated I want him back. He's the heart and soul of this defense. So I don't know how they're going to be able to do it. I'm bringing Nakobe Dean back.
I agree. For Nakobe Dean, I feel like if you're debating like a guy like Nakobe Dean, Jalen Phillips, and Reed Blankenship, which I feel like at the end of the day, only one of those three is going to be back, the guy who was most impactful for your defense, most consistently impactful for your defense, especially the Vic Fangio defense, it's Nakobe Dean. And I get that you drafted Jahad Campbell and it was a high draft capital and you would like to have him back into the picture, or you would like to get him into the picture in some way. He's just different than Nakobe Dean and brings different elements that Dean does a lot better. Although I will say this, I do think Nakobe Dean will fetch a significant amount of money that will ultimately end up in his departure, but I think that Nakobe Dean would be the one to keep too.
Next is A.J. Dillon. Gone. We have Saquon. We have Tank Bigsby. I would bring in a third running back. If we even get that far, we barely give the ball to Bigsby. But Shipley, I'm indifferent on, but A.J. Dillon's gone.
Yeah, A.J. Dillon's gone too. And I think one other point I want to make about Nakobe Dean that I didn't make, if the bidding gets high, I mean, we know that how he's going to let those guys walk and go for that 3rd round, 4th round comp pick. We know that he's not afraid to do that. And you're probably not getting that out of letting Reed walk or Dallas Goedert walk or Adoree Jackson. Like some of these other guys walking isn't going to fetch you the same comp pick or value that Nakobe Dean's going to fetch you.
Jahan Dotson, there go.
Go. Thank you for your time as our wide receiver 3. I'm ready to move on to another one.
Whoever it is probably ain't going to get the ball out anyway, but they'll probably draft somebody. It's obviously going to depend on the A.J. Brown situation, but again, I'm of the belief that we keep A.J. Brown. Marcus Epps, I would keep him. He stabilized the safety position. He's better than Sidney Brown when after Makuba got hurt and they brought him back. He stabilized it. I would bring him back as a depth piece. So I would bring Epps back, and I don't think he's going to cost a lot.
Absolutely, I'm bringing Marcus Epps back. We know the safety room is thin already with or without Reed Blankenship in the picture. Marcus Epps, like you said, at least he brings that stability, knowledge of this defense. Absolutely, keep Marcus Epps.
Dallas Goedert coming off of a career year with 11 touchdowns. It seemed like the only creativity that the Eagles offense had was in the red zone with Dallas Goedert. I know he's going to be entering his age 32 season, I think. They have to I will love Kenyon Sadiq. We'll see if he makes it to 23. There's a couple other tight ends in the draft. There are a bunch of free agent tight ends too, that the Eagles could potentially, if bidding gets too high on Dallas Goedert, might be able to bring in. Injury concerns, obviously, with Goedert. But if the number is right, I'm still drafting a tight end, but I would bring Dallas Goedert back.
Well, I'm drafting one. I'm signing a free agent one. And I mean, for Goddard, based on what I'm reading so far, it feels like the market's not shaping up for him the way we as fans maybe anticipate it shaping up. If it doesn't shape up and you get him back on like a 1-year deal or a two-year deal with the first year guaranteed, I'm okay with a deal like that. But if the bidding gets up and you got to go 3 or 4 years, I'm not bringing him back. It's got to be a short deal. And I feel like, we still need to go out there and prepare for life after Dallas Goedert. It went on long enough, and we thought Calcaterra would become more. He didn't. Then we have a handful of guys who've been up and down on the practice squad that haven't been able to really turn into anything or perform. The only one I see of any value right now is Cam Latu, and it's just to see what he can become and continue to be as a blocker, not as really a pass catcher. But definitely for Goddard, for me, I'm going to say to go based on what I've been saying about some of the other players and how much money he's going to have to be put into some of the other players I'm saying are stays. So Dallas Goedert's my go.
Kylan Granson, go. No other words to.
Gone.
Sam Howell, go. The Eagles are probably going to draft a quarterback. And that's no indictment on Hurts. It's just that's what they do. They'll draft somebody on day 3. The guy I really was interested in was Trinidad Chambliss, but he's going back to Ole Miss. I don't think this is a good draft for quarterbacks. Ando Mendoza might be okay, but we'll see. Next year, I definitely can see the Eagles potentially taking a draft pick, within the first 3, taking a quarterback, within the first 3 rounds. But Sam Howell, I have as a go.
Yeah, Sam Howell's gone.
Adoree Jackson. At the beginning of the year, we all hated him. He was really bad, but he started 10 games. He definitely played a lot better than I think we all anticipated him playing. We know we have Q. We know we have Coop. They're probably going to draft a corner. But if there's nobody else like that they can bring in, no other veteran option to bring in, why not bring Adoree back? And he kind of hit him, and Q and Coop can lend veteran leadership to the new draft pick, whoever they bring in, new young guy. But Adoree definitely was better than, and I know the expectations were really low, so it's not a hard bar to jump over. But Adoree Jackson played better, so I would consider. I'm an in between right now, just because it depends on draft and what other corners would be available. I'm gonna consider bringing Adoree Jackson back.
I'd keep Adoree Jackson. I mean, even if you draft a cornerback, that continuity would be nice. Like you said, if that cornerback's not ready to play right away, you have more time. And we saw what happened last year when we got cheap on bringing, what's his name back, who went to the Minnesota Vikings. Man, his name's slipping my mind. Isaiah Rodgers. Yeah, we saw what happened when we got cheap there on a contract that was more than affordable at the time for the Eagles.
Stop freezing up there, Connor.
Yeah, keep Adoree.
But yes, as Connor was saying, we saw what happened with Isaiah Rodgers. Brett Eclipse says, even if they draft a corner high, I'd still like Adoree to present a battle of camp. Yeah, again, he was a lot better. And I'm surprised that we're getting a lot of comments here that say keep Adoree. Because if we would have done this halfway through the season and we did our look ahead episode, people would have been like, no, we don't want Adoree. But you did break up, or you froze, Connor, so we kind of missed out what you said about Isaiah Rodgers.
Oh, yeah, I was just saying, we saw it was an affordable contract. We could have kept Isaiah Rodgers and not even had to go to Adoree Jackson. So I don't know if I want to test that again. Why you saw it 1 year, this year? This is the year that you bring him back. Bring him back for 2 years. Give him 1 year of it guaranteed, or 1.5 of it guaranteed. And I don't know if we can draft corner that high anymore. I don't see it as urgent of a need as other people clearly see it.
Fred Johnson. I am bringing Fred Johnson back. He's a good swing tackle. He started admirably for Lane Johnson, and we saw what happened in that Rams game when they went to, who did they go to? Pryor, and Pryor looked like crap, and then they finally put in Johnson, and he did a lot better. And he was the guy to go to when Lane Johnson went down. And Obviously, Fred Johnson, if he's able to get a starting job, like he thought he was going to start with Jacksonville, that's why he went there, and that didn't work out. If he thinks he can get a starting job, more power to him. But if he's willing to come back to be the swing guy, I mean, he started 8 games for the Eagles last year. There could be a potential to start some games, but being able to be the swing tackle, go out there when needed, and if they still use the 6th offensive line look under Mannion, he could be that guy. I'm bringing Fred Johnson back.
Yeah, I'm bringing Fred Johnson back, too. I agree. We don't know what we have in Miles Hinton and Cam Williams and some of these guys we drafted. We don't know where we're going to go in the draft as far as, drafting the heir to Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson injuries have been a concern here and there. I would go with bringing Fred Johnson back. If he's not going to get paid to go and start somewhere, we can bring him back.
Azeez Ojulari, he can go.
He can go.
Agbo Okoronkwo, he can go.
Oh, yeah, gone.
Jalen Phillips. You talked about injury concerns. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Phillips?
I know the dream is Max Crosby. I don't know if it's going to happen.
My dream is actually Myles Garrett. Yeah. People might want Max Crosby, but my dream is definitely Myles Garrett, which is never going to happen.
Yeah, like Max Crosby's a dream. I just don't know if it's going to happen. I know that Howie wants that stable edge, that force on the edge, that difference maker, game wrecker, and he would definitely be willing to pay the price that others may think could be rich for a guy like Max Crosby, which I don't think there's any draft capital return that's too rich for Max Crosby in return. But Jalen Phillips, for me, I have Nakobe Dean staying, so I have Phillips I'm going to have Phillips as a go. The concern about injuries and stuff, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they'll be able to get an edge in here. We'll combine the next two, Matt Pryor and Brett Toth. They can both go.
They can both go, but they always find a way back.
Josh Uche, I'm going to say bring back because I'm going to say stay. I think that he would come back cheap, and you need depth on the line, and he's not going to be a starter. But I think Josh Uche could provide a nice veteran presence. So I'm going to say stay for Josh Uche.
Yeah, I'll say stay too, because I agree with you. You can't just deplete the entire edge room and try and go out and fix it or find some other guys.
Connor. Adam's Exploits asks, how about Josh Jobe? We had him. Is he a free agent this year? Interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he only had a 1-year deal.
It'd be interesting to see if he can fit into this defense.
No, I agree with you. I think keep Uche. You can't just tear the entire edge room apart. I know that we already said to move on from a couple, but Uche seems like a guy that if he would be willing to come back cheap, it would be a great fit.
And one restricted free agent, Ben Van Summeren. Now, he got hurt like the first play of the season last year, and he was supposed to be the fullback, and then Cam Latu became the fullback. Why not? He's probably going to be cheap. Let him and Latu battle it out for our fullback position if Mannion's is one.
And in a worst case, Cam Latu is a serviceable tight end who can go and be a blocking tight end. And we know that the Shanahan offense likes a fullback. Look at Kyle Juszczyk. So Ben Van Summeren being there is probably not a bad thing. And you can find a way to keep them both there because Ben Van Summeren, although I think his injury happened on a special teams play, is actually a good special teams player. It's just hopefully he can stay healthy.
Yeah, hopefully. There are all the Eagles free agents are stay and go. We'll see what happens. Howie has some work to do. I think right now they have about $18-ish million with some cuts, and they don't have much that they can rework on these contracts. They can get around $30 million. So Howie's going to have some work to do, which we know he is the genius. And look, the Eagles they didn't give out a lot of, and it's more cash than cap. The Eagles didn't give out a lot of cash last year because they were preparing for Jalen Carter extension, which could potentially happen. Who knows if Jalen Hurts is going to get an extension. And obviously next year it's going to be Q and Coop that could potentially be in the extension talk. So we will see what happens. What do you have? What do you think we should do for our next show, Connor? I know Combine is coming up. Free agency is obviously going to come up, and then the draft in a couple of months. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. We're going to have to talk about that off air, but I agree. We're definitely going to do an Eagles-only mock. We always do that. We'll definitely do an NFL for the first-round mock draft that we always do, and hopefully maybe line up a guest or two and talk about some other things, some position battles or some positional needs. We'll be looking at it. Definitely a free agent episode right before free agency, trying to predict out some guys that we might want in Philly.
Spoiler alert, the Eagles are not going to use the franchise tag because I don't think they've used it since like 2010, 11 or something. They're smart at building a roster. The Dallas is going to plant one on George Pickens and give him a crap ton of money. And that defense is going to still suck. I'm sorry for you, Christian Parker. As always, thank you all for tuning into the Kelly Green Hour. Follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJRaw54. And follow the Eagles Pinpool Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcasts at Eagles Pinpool Network. Be sure to like, subscribe, review. Let us know how we're doing. We appreciate all the comments. Thank you all for tuning in to the Kelly Green Hour.